Hello everybody. In this video, we're going to be installing a Ring Spotlight Cam wired version camera, just like this one, except we are going to be installing it over here in front of this doorway where that light fixture is right there. So Ring has a couple of versions of this Spotlight Cam. They have the wired version, they have the battery powered version, they have the plug-in, and then they have a solar version too. But like I said, we are going to be installing the wired version, so we're going to be replacing this light fixture with the camera, just like on the other door. So before we get going, why don't we go unbox the Ring Spotlight Cam wired version, and then we'll see what parts and components come with it, and then we'll come out here and install. Okay, so before we unbox the Ring Spotlight Cam Plus, there's one thing that you should know. When you buy this on Amazon, it seems like you're buying like a single product, like the expectation is it's going to come in a single box. But the Ring Spotlight Cam wired version actually comes in two boxes. It's really a combo pack. And what I don't want you to be confused by is when you open the box and you see that you got the Ring Spotlight Cam battery. That is the way it came. So basically what you end up getting is the wired adapter for this, the mount, which actually kind of supports the wired piece of it. And then the Ring battery camera attaches to this. And then you wire it up that way. And of course we'll go through this, but I just wanted to make sure that when you get this delivered and you look at these two boxes, you don't think you were sent the wrong thing, because it's actually the Spotlight Cam battery, whether you bought the Plus or the Pro. So anyway, let's go ahead and unbox. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to unbox these things one at a time and show you what's in each package here. So let's get this in the center here. Now I've already cut this open. I haven't unboxed it, but I cut it open. I had to check something in there. But anyway, this came sealed. But there we are, and you can see it's all nice and neat. Nothing's really been disturbed inside. So let's go ahead and pull out the different components. Comes very nicely packaged, by the way. So it comes with instructions. We'll probably refer to these a couple of times during our installation here. But yeah, warranty stuff, typical. Then this is the mounting plate that will go against the wall. Okay. Now, these are very well marked things, and it's actually very clear where everything goes. But you can see here these markings that says up. So when you mount this to the wall, you want to make sure that those arrows are pointing up and you don't put it up like this. So there's that. And we're not pulling these out in any kind of order here. We're just pulling stuff that'll come out of the box. Now this is the important piece right here. Well, it's all important, but as we unbox this, you shall see. This is the mounting bracket for the camera itself. Okay, so this piece here will eventually go on this piece right here. On the back, this is where everything connects. And as we dig a little bit further here, let's see what else we get. Okay, so that box is now empty. You can see inside there. So these are just going to be little parts that we're going to need, and they're packaged quite nicely in these little envelopes. So we got a bunch of screws here. These are going to be the screws that mount our plate to the wall. These are just regular, pan head wood screws here. I'll just leave them there on the thing. Holding it in my hand, I don't think is going to help you see it any better. And then you've got these covers that will cover the screws here, these little white things. And you can see they're angled, if you can see that, so that when you put them on, you know, they sit flush in this curved surface there. So we got that. And then you can see here we've got some machine screws, and the machine screws are actually going to go into these, if you can see these inside there. I don't know if our lighting is good enough there, but you can see there's threaded things there that those screws will go right into. And you can tell they're machined. They don't have a point. They're not like wood screws that are designed to dig into the wood. So you got that. And then just some final things here. So you got your wire nuts, so that when you make your wiring connections here with your wires, you can make you have everything you need to make the connections to the source wires coming out of the wall. And then this guy right here, I don't know if you'll need it or not. I didn't on the first camera I put up, but this is just a convenient little thing. It's a little hanger so that when you kind of have the camera hooked up here, but it's just in a dangling state, you're not quite ready to put it all together. You know, this is just a hook that you can latch onto something and then, you know, kind of support the camera while you're working with the wires. I don't believe I needed this with the other camera I put up, the first camera, but I did need it with the spotlight camera that I put up over the garage, because you're up high, you only have two hands on a ladder, and that really helps, you know, hold the light while you're doing other things like doing the wiring. Okay, so there we go with all our mounting hardware all organized here. And you can see here, these screws here, I didn't notice it when and you might not be able to see it here on the camera. I hope the camera focuses, but there's like a little rubber washer on that to keep everything nice and watertight. All right, so that's the mounting pieces over here. That's what comes with the mounting. And so now let's dig into the camera. That camera was sealed. I would send it back if you didn't have this factory tape along here and it was unsealed. I'm very wary about accepting electronics that have been reboxed. But this is what you're going to see in the box. We'll pull some of the smaller stuff out first. Now, if you were using this as a battery-powered camera versus a wired camera or a plug-in camera, they have a version called the plug-in too. This is the cable that you would use to charge it if it were a battery. I don't really like battery-powered stuff. Where I can, I hardwire everything. I don't want to have to worry about charging batteries and that. Here we've got let's see what comes out of here. This just looks like some mounting screws here. I don't think we're going to be using this. This looks like, obviously, these are wall anchors, and we're not going to need wall anchors because everything's going to be attached to the bracket here. So let's scooch this stuff off to the side, and you got your ring sticker if you want people to know you're protected by ring. And then this is very important here. You're going to need this piece of paperwork here, because when you go to set your Ring camera up, you might hear my furnace in the background, I apologize for that. When you go to set this up, this is how you identify the camera when you go to set it up on the internet, you know, on your home network. So do not lose this. Okay, next up, box empty. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Here's the camera itself. Now it's covered with this is where the lens is and all that, and it's covered with a piece of paper, and we're just going to leave that paper on. We're not going to take that off until we're ready. But yeah, you can see here, this is the bottom, and this we're going to have to move. This kind of tilts off to the side, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then this is the ball that this is actually going to come off when we go to put this when we go to mount this over here. So there's the camera. And then this, if you were just to mount this to the wall, this would be the mounting bracket you would use. So say you bought this camera not wired, not plug-in, but just as the battery camera, this is all you would need, because you would mount this to the wall and this separates so that you can get I guess if we're going to cover this thoroughly, let's just do that. If you were to just use this as a battery camera, the battery operated, then this would, see if I can separate that. Yeah. So this would fasten to the wall. Again, it's well marked up like this. You would fasten that, then this would go on, and then you see this little, just like a hip joint. in the medical field here, that's a ball and socket joint right there, and then you would position your camera and tighten it up here, you know, to make sure it's secure. Okay, so if you were just using battery, this is all self-sufficient right here. Okay, so basically, if you were just, again, setting up the ring, this is all you would need. You have everything you need to mount it and to set up the camera and get it running with the battery power, charging cable right here to recharge it whenever you needed to. But yes, this is all standalone. But what we're gonna do is we're not gonna need this. So let's remove that from the equation. We're not gonna need these wall anchors, so let's remove that from the equation. And we're not gonna need these mounting screws, so let's remove these from the equation. And then we are eventually not going to need this. So we'll move that because we're not gonna be charging it. So basically all you need from here is the camera, and then you need the barcode so that you can hook it up to your home network when you're all installed. And then of course, you need the mounting hardware over here. All right, so with that all unboxed and we understand what all the parts are, let's go install this thing. Okay, so in order to get going here, we're gonna have to remove this old light fixture first. Now, what we're gonna do here to make sure that we do this safely is we're gonna cut the power at the breaker box just to make sure that all the power is cut and that we're not in any danger of electrocuting ourselves. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that this is not an instructional video for electrical work. My advice will always be to consult an electrician. I'm comfortable with this, so I'm going to go ahead and do this and I'll just show it on camera. But my advice to you is always to consult an electrician if you're not used to doing this type of work. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the light on. Now I'm going to go over to the breaker and I'm going to cut the power at the breaker. And as you can see, the power is now off. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to start removing this light fixture. Now with this light fixture here, this has 3 bulbs in it. So just to give myself a little extra room here, I'm just going to remove the bulbs first. On this light fixture, there's a decorative nut here in the back that we just twist off. If I can get my hand up there. Okay, so with the light fixture released, you can see it's a little bit of a mess back there. So we're going to release those wires, take off the light fixture completely, and then we're going to clean up that little mounting plate. Now again, this isn't an instructional video, but for me, I'll just grab these wire nuts here and release. Let's give it a twist off. All right, guys, I got everything relatively cleaned up here. If we wanted to, by the way, just kind of do a final test just to make sure that electricity is cut off here, I can use one of these little kind of pen or proximity testers here. You can see the green light there. The black wire is the wire that carries the current, so that would turn red if it were live. And then we could also use this contact tester too. I'm not sure if I can place that, we can see it, but if we make contact there, you would see this would light up. But yeah, you can never be too careful with the electricity, that's for sure. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to reuse this faceplate because I don't have any stain to match. Otherwise it wouldn't be necessary because the mounting plate for the ring, you know, could go just like that. But that would look kind of messy. So I'm just going to replace this. This will cover some of the messiness there. And then what we'll do is we'll put the plate that the ring mounts to right here, right over this. And then what we want to make sure we do is that when we screw these in, we're getting wood behind here and not this shallow electrical box here. And I'm going to go, for this case here, I'm going to go right through this so that it'll hold up this and this at the same time. Now remember when we were looking in the box here, this mounting plate here has a stamping up here so that, you know, this has to be facing up this way. So we'll just make sure that we do that. And we could even level that. We could take a little small torpedo level or whatever and make sure that, you know, this is like level this way. But I think I can eyeball it pretty good. So yeah, just make sure that everything looks fairly centered. And then I think you're ready to go. And then we'll drill some pilot holes. I'm a pilot hole guy. We're going to be using drywall screws here because drywall screws they just attach to everything. Now I don't torque it down with the drill driver. I do that by hand because I don't want to crack any of the plastic. But yeah, these drywall screws are great. They just hold everything. This job shouldn't take too long. Okay, so that's good. That's good enough to hold there. Now, 2 is definitely going to be enough. This is not going anywhere. But I may put one right up here on the top just for a little extra. Another pilot hole there. Like I said, that pilot hole is going right through the bracket and the plastic mounting piece there. I'll probably, if I haven't mentioned it already, probably replace those at some point, especially if we get the house repainted for sure. You get something neater here. I'm just working with what I got. This solid wire here doesn't twist very easily because this wire here it looks like it's kind of tinned stranded wire, but yeah, it's you just kind of do the best you can here. And all we're going to do here is match colors, black to black, white to white, and then the green goes to green or it goes to the uninsulated wire here. It's typically the ground. So let's start with the white. This is an easy installation because it's kind of at ground level. I've installed a couple of these cameras where you have to be up on a ladder to do it, and it can be a harrowing pain. But like I said, we'll twist these as best we can. The key is once you get your wire nuts on, you don't want any wire exposed. You don't want anything that's going to make any kind of an arc or anything like that. So black to black. I took off yellow wire nuts off of this. That's what was there before. These brown ones came with the ring, and I figured I'd just update to the newer, fresher ones. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give these a wrap with electrical tape. It's always good practice. It does 2 things, really. An electrician may have more insight, but for me, it basically, well, it just helps keep these things from loosening, first of all. And then secondly, if there's any kind of an arc, it'll contain it. Just in case I make a mistake. Not the neatest job, but it'll do. All right, so we have our black to black, white to white, and then lastly, our ground. I think I have to redo the grounding wire here. I'm not sure the technique used there was actually very good on the original wiring here. We're just going to go ahead and pigtail this. So what we're left here with are 3 strands. This one coming from the house, this one grounded to the box, and this is the fixture ground. So we're going to go ahead and We'll twist these two together first, I guess. Let's cut those down so there's not so much to squeeze into the box. Since we've got 3 wires here, I think we'll just go with the bigger wire nut here. Twist that on nice and good. Give it a little pull test, make sure everything is in there all nice. Won't go over as neatly as the other ones did, if you consider those other ones neat, because this wire nut has the wings on it. Is we're going to tuck our wires into the box, and then we're going to fasten this to the mounting bracket, to the plate here, to the mounting plate. These shallow boxes, these shallow electrical boxes, they can be kind of a pain because they're so shallow, there's no room. When I hung the cameras up on the eaves, I used like full-size, like round electrical boxes with standard depth, just so I didn't have to squeeze everything in there. So just make sure everything fits in there nice and neat. That there's kind of room for everything. So there we are right there. These are the machined screws from when we looked at the parts. They didn't have a point on them as if they were going to be driven into wood. They're just machine screws, and they'll pop in there. And then once you get one in, I typically don't, oops, that's not even in yet. I typically don't fasten each one down like to its final depth until I get like all 4 in, and then I'll tighten the rest in. And also look around, make sure you you don't have any wires hanging out. That wouldn't be good. There's 2. Three. And 4. And then we'll just make our way around, make sure they're tightened down. Now I'm not going to do it on this video, but the last thing you'll want to do is you'll want to do a little caulking around these open spots here, just to make sure water doesn't get in. Don't over tighten. I always get nervous over tightening plastic things. I am a notorious under tightener. Okay, those are pretty firmly in there. The other thing we're going to do here is that there's this little screw down here that will release this. Once we get the camera on, that'll be kind of a pain to move around. But so anyway, there we are. This is the bracket here. You got your USB-C cable. That's what's going to pass through and into the camera. That's going to be basically what ends up happening here, is that the power from the circuit, the wires that we just hooked up, just feed into this. It's like a charging cable basically that's just on full time. And then this is that screw here that we don't need. It doesn't really go anywhere in the back of the camera. I just decided to leave it there. So now the last thing we're going to do here is put the camera on the bracket here. At this point, you can turn the power back on at the breaker. Now that our electrical mount is mounted outside the door, we have one more thing we need to do before we can actually hang the camera. So if you remember from the unboxing, the camera comes with this ball joint here. And if we were just to hang this, let me just move the cloth out of the way so you can see against the black background better. So With the Ring battery, this is just designed to go on this kind of ball and socket joint here, but we're not using this. So what we're going to do is take this piece off so that we can then slide the camera onto the electrical mount. So what we're going to do here is, if you can see right here, there is a lock and unlock little icon here. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. And so there's also a little set screw right here. Now this set screw is spring mounted, so it won't fall out when you loosen it, and it's loose right now. So if you turn this to the unlock position, you can take this right off, and then what happens is you can slide this right out. So this we don't need because that went with this. So we'll scooch that out of the way. And then you can kind of look inside there and you can see there's a battery here. If you squeeze this little metal tab here, that battery comes right out. And there's a little cardboard protector that was in this that keeps it from, discharging the battery while it's, in the box. We've already pulled that card out. But at any rate, that's all you have to do is just pull that off. And then line up your, we won't do it yet because we have to hang the camera first. But when we go hang the camera, we'll line up the unlock position there and then we'll twist it back. So anyway, just a quick note, you have to remove this guy here before. And the other part that we did with the unboxing that you'll also need is this little piece right here. If you'll remember from the unboxing, I don't think I mentioned it specifically as we unboxed, but it's just this kind of piece of plastic here that has a hole that you can see. It has a hole that you can see here will kind of fit the USB-C through. So that's what's going to happen there. And then I think this also adds rigidity to that mount. So let's go ahead outside and mount the camera. Okay, so here's our mounting bracket here. You can see that there's that screw there. We're not going to worry about that. I think that just attaches maybe to another type of camera, but that doesn't go into the back of our camera, but we're going to leave it. But anyway, you have to put this little bracket on right here. Not a bracket, this little plastic piece here. There's two sides, obviously. There's a side with some texture and some raised elements there, and then there's the smooth side. You want to put the smooth side to the outside there. And that just kind of fits over that screw. That screw can even hold it on there. It just holds in by tension. And then simply slide the camera onto the bracket. Make sure that screw is out of the way. You might want to push that back or hold it back. And it just follows that channel right down. Okay. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is plug in the USB. So you might have to do this by feel, especially if your camera's at a weird angle, but you'll see it. And it just slides in like so. And then you're going to put this little shroud on here. And this just covers up all the electrical components in the back. And then lastly, replace this bottom cover here. And again, you want to take those lock icons there, goes on the back corner, the back right corner as you're facing it.
Now in setup mode.
Turn in the set screw. And you're good to go. Now it's time to set it up on the app. For setup purposes, I'm going to assume that you've downloaded the Ring app and you've created a Ring account. When you click on the app, you're going to be brought to this home screen of sorts. This home screen contains all your other connected devices, if you have any other connected devices. But also on this screen is a prompt called Set up a device. So go ahead and select Set up a device. The next thing you'll need to do is to select what type of a device you're trying to set up. So in this case, we're going to select security cams. The next prompt you'll get is, I'm ready to scan. So if you're ready to scan, go ahead and select that option. Your phone or tablet will go into camera mode. At this point, go ahead and scan the QR code that's either in the manual or on the side of the camera. The next thing you're going to do is to select a location that you want to associate your Ring camera to. Now, you more than likely only have one location if you're an average homeowner like us. But there are cases where you may have more than one location. For example, if you are a landlord or you have a vacation home and you just wanted to group your cameras by those specific locations. Otherwise, if you only have one location, it's going to default and you can just click continue. The next thing you're going to do is give your Ring cam a name. So there are a few standard names you can select from. Otherwise, you can enter a custom name here. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to call our camera Basement Walkout. The next prompt that needs to be answered is, how will you power your Spotlight cam? In our case, we've hardwired this, so we're going to select the hardwired option. The next few screens are just going to be reminders and steps regarding the installation and safety precautions and things like that. The only two questions you'll need to answer are about the electrical box. And one is the electrical box metal or plastic? And is the electrical box a 4-inch diameter or something else? Just answer those the best you can and continue to move forward. In the next steps, we're going to be connecting to the Wi-Fi. So make sure you have your network password handy and you're standing close to the Ring camera that you've just installed. If you're all set, click the prompt, I have my password, and on the subsequent page, click I am near the device. The camera is now going to connect to the Ring app.
Now connected to the Ring app.
The following prompts are going to ask you for your network and password. I don't need to do that because I already have a bunch of Ring cameras hooked up and the Ring app already knows that information. After providing your network information, the Ring camera will automatically connect to your Wi-Fi. It'll hopefully tell you that it's been successful, and then there'll be a prompt to continue.
Connecting to Wi-Fi. Just a moment.
Go ahead and select that prompt to continue.
Now installing an update. This may take several minutes.
The last thing that's going to happen with your camera is that it's going to automatically download a software update for itself. This may take a few minutes, so you have to be patient. There's a couple more prompts about optimizing motion and sharing the camera, which we're going to skip for now. You can always update those later on right from the app. So our last prompt is I'm done and our setup is complete. Once back on the home page, you can see I've got my new Basement Walkout camera, but you can see it's still downloading that update. And then once that update is complete, the camera will be online and it'll be functioning just like all my other cameras. All right, you can see here that the update is complete and the thumbnail is just looking out into its field of view. So let's go ahead and tap on this camera and just make sure that all the adjustments are complete. Okay, with the camera selected, I can make my final adjustments. I can make sure, the camera is looking at what I want it to look at, and I can just kind of move it around on the mounting bracket to get it facing in the right direction, which I think it looks pretty good here. I can also test the features. You can manually turn on and off the light. You can turn on the microphone so you could talk to somebody at the camera, and you can turn on just the speaker so that you can hear what's going on out there. So there's a bunch of things here to test. And if I tap on the gear in the upper right hand corner, I can go in there and I can do all my motion settings, all the things I could have set up during the initial setup process. I can go back and set up here in the settings. So anyway, yeah, I think we have a nice successful installation here. And yeah, I think we're good to go. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our unboxing, installation, and setup of our Ring Spotlight Cam Plus. As you can see, it was super easy. The video ran a little long only because I just wanted to be thorough in case folks have never done this before. You saw every aspect of it. And we can certainly make improvements later on by replacing that plastic mounting plate behind the camera, but that'll be super easy. And the one thing I didn't do on camera that I even haven't done yet is do the caulking to keep water from getting behind it. But super easy there. Now, we did wait a couple of weeks to do this outro just because I wanted to make sure that the Ring camera worked for a good amount of time and we didn't have any problems with it immediately after the installation. And yeah, it works totally fine. I mean, as you saw from my app, we have 6 other cameras and they all work great. We've never had a problem with any of them, really. So yeah, I was expecting it to be fine. But again, just a kind of a precaution here to make sure that for the video, the camera that we installed continued to work immediately after the installation. So anyway, yeah, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. And if you decide to install a Ring Spotlight Cam or any other Ring camera, good luck. And I'm sure it'll go fine. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video.